Greg Rusedski believes Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal are the men to beat in 2019, and while he wouldn't rule out Roger Federer landing at 21st Grand Slam, he views Andy Murray as out of the equation for the time being. The former British number one was hugely impressed with Djokovic's form at the end of last season, with the Serb returning to World No. 1 and equaling Pete Sampras' haul of 14 majors. And while he hopes that young stars such as Alexander Zverev, Khachanov, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Borna George and Kyle Edmund can make a breakthrough this year, he's expecting Djokovic and Nadal to claim the slams. "I think it's been a fascinating tale of two halves in 2018, he told Metro.co.uk ahead of his Champions Tennis appearance at the Royal Albert Hall last month. Djokovic kind of said I'm back when he won Wimbledon. Then finishing world number one for the 5th year, so he's the man to beat in 2019. The interesting thing is, during this best part in the last 6 months, the 3 guys he's lost to is Tsitsipas in Toronto, Khachanov in Paris and Zverev in London. So these are the 3 guys that we think are standing out at the moment. And then you've got George in there as well as Kyle Edmund as well to put in the mix as 5 youngsters. I think Novak will be the man to beat at most of the slams. French Open is probably Rafa with his health. The former US Open finalist views Zverev, whose fitness is in question, ahead of the Australian Open next week, as the strongest of the youngsters, and believes his partnership with Murray's former coach Ivan Lendl could be crucial to his hopes on the biggest stage. Zverev with Lendl is the most exciting combination of the youngsters right now, he added. The way he played in that final, at the ATP Finals, was the way he should be playing. When the off-season with Ivan, he's going to be playing better. He hasn't performed at the majors the way that he'd like, but winning his biggest title at the end of this season was the perfect climax. Khachanov, there's something about that guy mentally as well which I love. He has Goran Ivanisovic's old coach Vedran Martic, who has done a fantastic job. He just has that tunnel vision and also the game to go through people. He really highlighted that when he pushed Rafa all the way at the US Open. Those are the 2 guys that I think will probably explode on and have a chance. It's hard to see past Djokovic and Rafa at the moment, but those are the 2 guys out of the mix. Federer has enjoyed a bright start to the season, winning the Hopman Cup with Switzerland, but Rusedski was concerned by his form in the back end of 2018. Federer, there's still question marks on the second part of his season, Rusedski continued. It wasn't the same Federer as the first part of the season. Asked if his hand injury should be taken into account for that dip in form, he added, "Of course you do. You can never discount him. Everyone is starting to write him off again, but you do so at your peril. Yes, he's getting older and the other guys are moving well. He's got to play that sort of lights-out tennis that he did in Australia. The quicker surface does favor him. The O2 was a little slower this year. Australia was quick, so we'll know where Roger really is at the Australian Open next year. Never discount the greats." Rusedski remains concerned about the physical condition of his compatriot Murray, who has already struggled with hip pain this season. He hasn't got any momentum, Rusedski sighed. "I kind of compare it to Stan Wawrinka's year. Stan has managed to play week in week out, so yes, he's taken his losses, which is normal. It's hard coming back from knee surgery. Andy has had hip surgery. For me, I have to see week in week out from Andy first. Not 1 week on, 1 week off. There were good signs at the US Open, but we haven't really seen him play since. That's the problem. We need to see him playing consistently week in week out before we can even put him in the conversation with those guys. He deserves all the time he can get because he's had a fantastic career no matter what happens from now on, and hope he can somehow get his health back. It's not his hitting the ball or his mentality, it's all physical." And for a great champion like himself, that must be extremely frustrating because the mind and the strike of the ball is good, but the movement is such a huge ingredient that no matter whether it's Federer, Novak, Rafa, you take away their movement to what it once was and you can't achieve the heights you've achieved. I'm hoping he can get to health. For me, that's the most important thing for Andy in 2019.